we're not just looking at history, we're trying to hack it. We're on the hunt for the source code, the underlying logic that might be running the narrative we've all been taught. And our entry point? It's a really strange, almost mathematical anomaly deep in the heart of medieval France.
Right. We've all heard that saying, history is written by the victors. It implies a certain slant, a bias. But what if the truth is something way more radical? What if parts of our history weren't just biased, but actually constructed, almost like they were programmed? The source material for this explainer suggests we found a major glitch in the matrix of the French monarchy.
Okay, so to hack any system, you've got to find a vulnerability first, right? A glitch, something that just doesn't add up. For us, that entry point is this chunk of time in French history that is so perfectly structured, it just feels, well, it feels unreal. Just look at this timeline. We're talking about a very specific 393-year period, from 929 to 1322. Now, on the surface, okay, it's just history, but look closer. It seems to be a precise system, one that's divisible into 3 perfect blocks of 131 years each. This clean division is our very first clue that something unusual is going on here. So this is the number to focus on, 131. Think of it as the core interval, the repeating variable in our historical code. You got to keep this number in mind, because it is the key that unlocks the rest of the system's logic. It's like the steady beat to which this entire era of history seems to be marching. All right, we found our way in, so let's decompile the code. We're going to start with the most rigid, most predictable piece of this puzzle, the royal succession of the Capetian Dynasty. And believe me, this is where the patterns become absolutely undeniable.
Inside this system, let's zoom in on the last 262 years. From 1060 all the way to 1322, the French throne belongs to kings with only 2 names. That's it, Philip and Louis. And they don't just appear randomly, no, they alternate one after the other in a sequence so predictable it feels less like chaotic history and more like clean, simple code.
And this just brilliantly illustrates how structured it all is. I mean, if you were to write a computer program to generate the list of French kings for this period, it would look something just like this, a simple loop. Philip, then Louis. Philip, then Louis. For 2.5 centuries. What are the odds of that happening by pure chance? Statistically, it's a profound anomaly. But it gets weirder because the structure goes even deeper. The code isn't just sequential, it's also symmetrical. The data points within this royal algorithm, they start to mirror each other in ways that just defy probability. This is the point where you have to stop and wonder if coincidence is the right word. This starts to look a lot more like deliberate design. So consider this pair. Philip I and Louis VII. They lived in totally different times, yet the historical record says they both reigned for the exact same length of time, 49 years. Okay, an interesting coincidence, you might think. But trust me, it's just the beginning. And the pattern just keeps going. It happens again with Philip II and Louis IX. Boom, both reigned for 44 years. And again with Philip IV and Louis VI, both for 29 years. So that's 3 separate pairs of Philips and Louises with perfectly mirrored reigns. At this point, you gotta ask, how is this possible? Now this diagram from the source lays out the entire system for us. It actually extends the analysis all the way to 1515, showing 7 kings named Philip on the left and 7 kings named Louis on the right. You can clearly see those symmetrical pairs we just talked about, but it's the grand total that's what reveals the truly impossible nature of this whole pattern. And here it is, get this. When you add up the total years that all 7 Philips ruled, you get 166 years. And when you add up the total for all 7 of the Louises, it's exactly the same, 166 years. I mean, down to the year. This is the kind of perfect balance you find in a constructed spreadsheet, not in the messy, chaotic randomness of actual human history. So, if the kings are the main algorithm, what about the queens? Well, according to the source material, they aren't random variables either. It seems like they operate as a kind of subroutine, where their identities are directly dependent on the name of the king they marry. The rules are just bizarrely strict. For centuries, if the king's name was Philip, he would only ever marry a woman from a very specific list of names. If his name was Louis, he married from a completely different but equally specific list. There is absolutely zero crossover. A Philip never marries a Margaret, a Louis never marries a Joan. It just doesn't happen. This chart from the source really visualizes it perfectly. It literally functions like a database lookup table. The system checks the king's name, is it Philip or Louis, and then it just assigns a queen from the corresponding list. I mean, This kind of rigid, rule-based pairing is simply not how royal marriages worked in the real world.
And all of this leads to the final, and maybe most compelling piece of evidence: the ghost in the machine. A moment where the system seems to reveal its own constructed nature through what really looks like a copy-paste error, a duplicated record hiding in plain sight for centuries.
So to find this error, we need to connect two kings who were separated by centuries, Pippin III and Philip I. The source makes the case that their names are linguistically the same, that Pippin is just an old form of Philip. And this name, it's the key that unlocks the whole duplicated record.
Okay, so with that connection made, the evidence becomes pretty striking. The source points to a really strong resemblance in their official depictions. But believe me, the similarities go so much deeper than just how they looked.
Take a look at this list of biographical details. Both kings married a woman named Bertha. Both had 5 children. Both kicked out their first wife. They both died at almost the exact same age, and they even both had a father-in-law named Florus. These aren't just coincidences anymore. These are echoes. It's almost as if one king's life story was just used as a template for the other, a literal copy and paste of historical data.
The source itself puts it pretty bluntly. These patterns, the symmetrical reigns, the queening rules, the duplicated biographies, these are absolutely impossible irregularities. The conclusion it points to is pretty hard to escape, that this isn't history as it actually happened, but history as it was constructed from a set of rules and, apparently, copied data.